Hey, I'm Dr. Pat, and I'm here with Lore Goldstein. You know, Lore, we got a great show today, and we're going to be talking about the treasure chest of Tarot. So, what does that mean? That means you're going to hear a little bit about it, but also this is an opportunity for all of you to join in. And that's what's fun about this, because when you take a look at this idea of Tarot, what do we think about? So, how does a deck of cards, how can they help you skyrocket your confidence? So, this is the body of work you do. Tell us about the show today, because we're also taking callers. Yeah.
We are. We're absolutely taking callers. If you want to find a little bit of what kind of treasure lurks within you that you may not know about, please call in. Or if you're on Facebook Live, you can type in and we'll give you a little sneak peek. And I wanted to preface this with the reason why I wanted to talk about tarot is it's a really valuable tool. And my whole thing is copy with the universe, connecting with yourself, connecting with spirit. And a lot of times we can't get underneath what our monkey mind is saying. We really can't hear because our headspace is so filled with noise. And tarot is just a tool. It's a deck of cards. It's just a tool I use to help people really resolve a greater issue or find purpose in their life. So I really wanted to dive into some myths about it and what it is and what that looks like when you use this tool to communicate with yourself, to communicate with the universe, and really to find that the gifts that are within, which really reshapes how you think about yourself.
And this is the thing too, is that you not only look at this and work with the cards, and by the way, we are taking your calls. Um, but this is also, how do we look at this in the context of what we want to create in life, or what you're in the middle of right now, or one of the things that may be heavy on your mind or not? And so part of this, for those of you that are getting ready to call in, and maybe what I should do is make sure you have the 1-800 number, 1-800-930-2819, and Benny will get you on the phone and put you on hold for a little bit, and we'll bring you up shortly. And then also facebook.com/transformation talk radio. But one of the things we should know is there are some ideas about the deck, right, that we sort of believe is true, but they're not. What did you learn on your journey to get close to tarot or
Well,
tarot? It depends on what part of the state you're from.
yeah, it depends on the school, tarot. So for me, one of the biggest realizations is I assumed that it was always for fortune telling, because this is what you see. You go to carnivals and Renaissance fair, and you have someone that is helping you predict when you're going to meet the love of your life, or when you're going to get more money, or whatever it is. And that was not something that I personally bought into. I wouldn't say I don't believe it, because there are people out there that do accurate predictions, but that just wasn't my thing. And I learned that the cards aren't necessarily just for fortune telling and for what's coming in the future. The cards can also reflect what is going on inside you, as well as your attributes. So when I started working with the cards, it was more out of experimentation. And I realized that they could uncover a whole lot more than just what is going to happen to me tomorrow. And another interesting thing was people would assume that they had like some kind of magical powers, like the cards are magic and they have a life of their own. But I mean, they're really just, I mean, they're cards, they're card stock with images on them. The real magic, the real power comes from reading the energy and whatever the user is intending to do with them. So it's really more about human intention than it is about, oh, there's a deck of cards, they're mystical and magical and have a mind of their own.
Yeah. And how many things have we learned to be true and not true about tarot? Because this is really what we think about over time. We think about our pop culture, right? And we think about what we see on television, or we see on movies, or we see, you imagine the picture, right? Like, that's portrayed right on television and movies, right? And it's usually a woman looking like she's from Transylvania, and she's got the headgear on, and then the ball.
And the ball.
And the ball, you can't forget the crystal ball. I so believed in this when I was younger. I had one of those magic 8 balls, the little 8 ball where you're like, oh,
Yep.
am I blah, 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 and then
Yes, no, maybe.
that's not what we're talking about here. Although a lot of people think it is, right?
They do. My favorite is people are like, oh, that's the devil's work. And this usually comes from very religious folk who believe, that this is the devil talking. And in the pentacles, the coins actually, have a pentacle symbol. So there is some idea that this is witches' work. And I mean, if you think about it, tarot just got started. It was really a game of the gypsies. It also started as a traditional card game versus something to read energy or predict futures. But I always find it interesting because, again, it's the intention. You can use any object and make it, quote, devil's work. But if you have the cards and your intention is to support people, to help people, to do things differently for the highest good of everybody, that's not devil's work. That's love, light, and kindness, support.
Yeah. And it is something really interesting too. I mean, how many times have you seen, right, different versions of the cards? I mean, we've gotten like super creative with the cards, right? But the cards themselves haven't really changed very much, right? And then we interpret some of the cards. I think I've talked to you about a card that I keep pulling. Well, I don't pull it, but when people go to the deck and start to pull, right? What I get is the same card. And for a long time, I was like, oh no, don't do this on air for me. I think you and I talked about this, Laura, right? Where I'm
We did
like,
the
oh,
tower, the dreaded
oh,
tower.
oh, so we're gonna have fun when we come back, because I want you to actually pull one to see if it comes up. I'm not even gonna mention what that card is that you and I talked about, but I had a misunderstanding about it. And it had to come from, I think, the first time, like 10 years ago when it first came. It was about 10 years ago. I don't know if I even put the card somewhere. But this is the thing too, is we have these literal meanings. And so that's not the way they work. Like if you pull the death card, what? No, that's not like in the movies. Like the movies, you hear the music, and
And
then the
someone's
card
going to
gets pulled.
die.
And then now you realize you're watching a movie called Destination 5 or something. I don't know. But isn't this a misconception?
It is because people assume that the cards are, quote, good and bad. And the reality is they are just neutral and they portray a story or uncover what's going on. So there is no good or bad card. And the death card can actually be very positive in the way that in order for something to transform, change into something better, that old thing needs to die. I mean, if you even think about it in practical terms, if you have a career that you hate, that is, just eating away at your soul, in order to go to another job that is fulfilling to you, you have to let the old one go. It's got to die in essence. So there aren't any, but even the hanged man is a beautiful card. It's about surrendering and peace and serenity. It's not like, oh, somebody's going to be hung. So these cards are often misinterpreted based on the images or even just the general word.
But isn't that why, when we talk about this, and we'll do this when we come back. And for those of you out there, this is a live call-in show. This is about readings today with Lore Goldstein. For those of you out there, the treasure chest of tarot. We're going to talk more about that. But this is really about the treasure chest. I mean, it's really about what I find to be a very sophisticated card deck, right? And I say it's sophisticated because it's almost like it works in 3 dimensions, right? Or more than 3 dimensions. But that's where you come in because you help people with this. This is part of what you do. So we don't leave it to our own interpretation, right?
We don't. It is harder to read for yourself than it is for other people. However, it is helpful. Like with my clients, I'm very open to this being a dialogue, because sometimes they'll see something in the cards that is their story that they're like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of XYZ. Okay, then let's explore whatever XYZ is. It helps to make a like focus, I guess you could say. And like, Rorschach, the ink blots.
Yeah.
Yeah. The black and whites where I don't know, this was like psychiatrist a long time ago. They'd show you an ink blot and they'd be like, what is it? Well, whatever is essentially in that person's perception, they say, oh, it's this, it's a butterfly. Okay, well, what do butterflies mean to you? They're going to see what is in their experience, and that is very telling.
Yeah. And part of this too is people think there's a right, a wrong, a good, the bad, and the ugly. And when we come back, we're going to talk about this, but also we're going to talk about the journey. The journey from what? Many of us come from this place of anxiety, depression, feeling broken, not feeling good enough. So how do we go from that to finding the buried treasure for greater confidence and purpose? That is a body of work that Lore Goldstein does. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're taking your calls. We're doing readings today, 1-800-930-2819. I suggest maybe folks have a question, right? Is that a good thing to do?
Well, this is about the treasure chest within. So I think it's basically helping them understand maybe a strength or something within them
Exactly.
that's positive. So that's going to be the theme for anybody that calls in. I want to know what's lying within that I should treasure that I'm just not really aware of.
Exactly, because we're in the middle of a time in our lives right now where we need to be reminded of this. And that's why I love what you're doing here today. Reminded that we have that treasure, that thing inside of us. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, and I'm going to be curious to see. I think Jessica and Linda need to do this too. But I'm curious to see what's my treasure. What did I forget about? We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tune us in and turn us on. Coffee with the Universe with Lore Goldstein. Come home to yourself. Look, before we talk about the treasure chest, and you're going to share a great story with us, I want to know, how do people work with you directly? How do they find out more about you? And yes, this is a live call-in show. Eugenia will be right there. 1-800-930-2819. Also, do you want to know what's in your treasure chest over on Facebook.com, Transformation Talk Radio? We'll get to you over there. All right. So how do people work with you? How do they become part of your Coffee with the Universe universe?
Well, the best way is to experience this work, to experience a one-on-one, because you really don't get the feel for how the cards can support you and help you and give you information. So you can go to my Being Doing page, because that's my session. It's a great introductory session, and that's CWTU, that's coffeewiththeuniverse.net/being and doing, CWTU.net/being doing. That's a mouthful. I tried to make it simple. I really did. It's like,
I know, but it's a delicious mouthful, so that's kind of cool. All right. So, as an example, for those of you calling in, and Benny is picking up the phone lines, and certainly Olivia is watching Facebook. For those of you, let's show them how this works. So, first, let's talk about the evolution of this. You and I during the break we were talking story, right? We're
Mhm.
talking about things that show up in our lives. We're also talking about the anxiety and the stress, and how do you find the treasure within that? What experiences do you have with this?
Well, this work really started with teenagers as a desperate way to get them to talk in therapy. Kids are taken to therapy and they don't want to say anything, and they got their hoodies up and I'm not going to talk. So I just started using the cards to have a conversation, and they were just really shocked, but also intrigued by it. And it got them talking. But I really wanted to tell a story about this young man that came to see me, and his parents brought him in because he was seeing people that weren't there. They're like, oh, he's seeing dead people and he's having a conversation with this guy and we can't see him. And they were really freaking out. So, long story short, and with the help of the cards, we realized that this figure that was appearing to my client was really my client himself. It was his inner voice trying to communicate with him. And he really had the gift of being able to communicate well with others, but also with spirit. But the key was is he wasn't acting on it. He wasn't sharing. He wasn't doing anything with it. He was trying to suppress it all inside. So this was really a gift that he was scared of, that his parents were scared of, but that we could then reframe into, this is something that you do really well. You have a very strong sense of who you are, and you're very well connected to your intuition. And sometimes our intuition wants us to do things that don't seem logical or rational. So we had to work through all of that, but the cards helped facilitate, what is this strength? You're a strong communicator, you're a strong messenger. So, what is that message that is being shared with you that you aren't paying attention to? It completely reframed how he saw himself. And the man went away because he could learn to just talk to himself. He didn't need to like see a guy, but it was just a really interesting transformation. And the cards really did help facilitate that.
And this is what I love, and I say this a lot. I often say I don't know what I don't know, and more recently, Laura, what I've been able to say is, and I'm so curious. I'm a curious person. I've often been asked, what is it that keeps you so engaged in the people you talk to or speak with or interview? I am really curious. I mean, to hear stories like the one you just told, and then also to be able to be part of our listeners' journeys and see what shows up. It's just amazing for me. And now we're going to take this interesting look, because you're coming at this from a really cool place. You're coming at this, whoa, your treasure chest. And we need a big dose of this today. So tell us how this is going to roll for people when they call in, or when they, uh, a minute we'll go to Eugenia on the phone, but tell folks how this is going to roll.
Well, basically, I'm just going to say hello, but I'm going to use the cards to identify maybe a strength or some aspect of resiliency that they are not either aware of, or if they are aware of, they're not using. So this is really about the treasure chest. So I want to give any callers the like a walk away, walk away with, oh, this is a strength, this is something that I need to treasure, but I also need to start embracing and maybe using, depending on what comes up.
So let's take a look at the treasure chest and how it works. Benny, I would love to go to the phones and bring Eugenia on if we could do that.
Eugenia, are you there?
Hi,
I am.
Eugenia.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'm so excited.
I know. Let me turn you over to Lore Goldstein here.
Hi, Eugenia. Thanks for calling in.
Hi, Lori. Thank you.
So what attracted you to this?
Well, There's no coincidences, right? So I just happened to get into my car and tune to the Dr. Pat show, and there you were. And I have been in this place of like, kind of what is my next step in life. I feel like I'm sort of done where I'm at, but I have this time frame of thinking, okay, I'm going to be here another couple of years and then I'm moving. And when I move, I'm kind of, wanting to recreate myself. And I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. So when I heard the show this morning, I was like, oh, it's perfect timing. Like I said, coincidences I don't believe in, right? So here I am.
Well, great, great. So let's do this. So let's uncover maybe a strength or treasure and just see what the cards say about what's next for you. How about that?
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Give me a second. Let me just shuffle up here. You'll probably hear thwap, 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 thwap. Can you hear that? Does it sound thwappy when I shuffle with the microphone?
Yeah, it's very effective.
All right, Eugenia, let's see here. Okay, so this is so interesting, Eugenia. So we just talked, this is like divinely perfect because we just talked about this card, Dr. Pat. So for your strength, Eugenia, the death card came up. So and this is so apropos and perfect because the death card is about transformation. So this tells me that you have the ability to transform something, whether you take something ugly and make it pretty, or you help somebody that's in a tough situation shift through change. So it's really about something old is leaving, but something new is coming in. So tell me, Eugenia, what does that mean to you?
Something old leaving and something new coming in. Well, it could be the first thing that pops in is this old belief that I have to do things in a more conventional way, like instead of allowing things to happen, making things happen, right? So I think it's about that. I think it's about letting go of trying to control things and continuing to work on myself and my skills, and then allowing.
Okay, but what about as a strength? Because this is really a treasure, something that you own, that you can do, that you're good at, but also has purpose for you. So are you someone that can look at like an old dilapidated dresser or chest and craft it into something new? Are you someone that can support somebody that's in a difficult position and bring light to the situation? How is this a strength for you?
Yes, I definitely am the optimist, and I do have people that come to me, and I actually am a certified life coach as well, but I do some coaching. So yes, I help people to look at the patterns in their life that are keeping them stuck, and then how do they change that information to create something that they'd rather have in their life. So yes, I definitely use that, but I think I don't trust that I'm, good enough.
Ah, okay. So here's the treasure for you. You are good enough, and this is a strength, and trust it. Trust that you have that ability to transform someone's experience, someone's life, and do more of that, because what's next for you is the Page of Cups. And this is like, it's almost like a beginner, but this is all about creativity and emotions, maybe working with that, or it is going really right along with the death card, in that you're helping people with transformation. You want to trust that and really get creative in your work, starting new, but adding that element of creativity, of intuition, because this is cups, water flowing intuition. So I think this is really a message that you want to step more into that, whatever it looks like. This is your treasure, and what the universe is saying is next for you.
What do you think?
No,
Yeah.
that's, no, I think that's true, and I think it's like I said, going back to like trusting that, and not, I get hung up on the how to make it happen, and then also the uncomfortableness of letting go of traditional, job, right? And how to and I'm sure a lot of people relate to this. How do you change and go into that? It's not like I have been self-employed in the past, but just how to make that happen in a way that it's comfortable and not too scary.
Well, it's going to be scary because it's something new and different. And when you work for yourself, there's a lot of unreliability. Nobody's giving you a steady paycheck anymore. So it's going to be scary. But I think you were right on in saying, how do I now trust myself that I can do this? How can I get to a place where I can really tap into my intuition? Because intuitively, I know that this is something that I'm good at and that I can do. So how do I trust that? I think that's, the bigger question, or the work to be done there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
so much sense. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that I might not, be seeing or hearing that?
No, I think this is enough for you. This is good to process. It's hard to trust yourself. I mean, I know sometimes I'm pulling the cards and I'm like, oh my gosh, what does this even mean? Is this person going to relate to it? Does this even make sense? So we all go through that. So maybe just I don't want to overwhelm. I don't like to overwhelm. So just work on that piece. What are some things that you can put in place? Maybe some safety systems where when you start to doubt yourself, you kind of rein yourself back in.
Yeah, I totally love that. And this is one of these things that for those of us that were thrown into the stage of, do I do this or do I become self-employed? It is that leap of faith. And I think you got some direction as to how to go about that today. So thank you, Eugenia, for calling in. We're going to take a short break. We are taking your calls, everyone. 1-800-930-2819. When we come back, I'm curious to see what's in my treasure chest. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing Coffee with the Universe with Lore Goldstein. Come home to yourself. But today it is the treasure chest of tarot or tarot. How a deck of cards can help skyrocket your confidence. And by the way, we are taking your calls. Say hi to Benny if you do call in. 1-800-930-2819. We're also taking your questions and comments on Facebook.com/Transformation Talk Radio. But let's take a little bit deep dive into the treasure chest. And you and I were talking about this in kind of preparing for the show. But before we get to that, if people are thinking, well, wait a minute, I want to know more about my treasure chest. How do I get to do this with Lore?
My best recommendation is to try a being doing session. It's a 60-minute session with me, and we really do a deep dive into this. What are your strengths? Who do you want to be? Who are you being? And what are you doing? And doesn't all line up. So you can find out more about that. cwtu.net/being doing.
Yeah. How many times in my life has somebody said, "Who you be?" I can't tell you. Walking up to me, "Who you be?"
Who you be?
Who you be? I mean, it's like, I mean, I thought I would outgrow that, like coming up from the projects and where I grew up, and it was like a common phrase, right? But even now, people are like, "Who you be?"
Who you be?
And I'm like, okay, when I know, I'll let you know. But what's in my treasure chest for today?
What's in your treasure chest? It could be a lot of things. Treasure chest might be a purpose that you're being called to do that you aren't fulfilling. It could be strengths, it could be gifts, reframing something. Like if you're struggling, you see yourself as broken. Oh, this is a big one. People often see themselves as being broken in some way, shape, or form. And I can totally relate. I am a word girl. I tend to babble and blab and all the ums and so's and likes. And I'm a talker. And when I was younger, I would get, oh, she's a little chatterbox, or you talk too much. And that to me was, I am damaged in this way. So then I try to suppress my voice. But the reality is my words are my gift. I get downloads and I just blab out information. And sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to wait for it to come. But that thing that I thought was wrong with me, you talk too much and you just, blabber about nothing at times, is actually my greatest gift. So the cards can also help us see that. And I think that's huge. Talk about getting confidence, because we now just shifted, oh, I suck at this, or I'm bad at this, to, wow, look how I can harness it and use it to actually support people or whatever it is.
I love that you said that. For those of us that grew up in the corporate world, so to speak, had the corporate job, I 24 and a half years, but almost every job I had. And then I worked for a small consulting boutique firm here in Washington State. And by the way, we redesigned all of the Snohomish County PUD utility systems. Now, what is it, the common thread? Well, for a while, my performance review as an executive would say, she does a great job, blah, 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 blah. But we think she's from another planet. Now I acknowledge that as a compliment, right? That's got to be in my treasure chest. I don't know if there's a card for that, but that has turned out to be a benefit for me now in what I do. See, we have to be able to see what's in the treasure chest. So I'm going to ask you if you could pull a treasure chest card for me.
Yes. So
and I'm curious about this.
Not only do we want to see what's in our treasure chest, we want to own it. And we want to embrace it and love it.
Did you tell that to Eugenia when she called in? Because she's still listening.
Yes.
I noticed you pointed that out to me.
I have to say, we were just talking about the death card. So I love that was full.
I can't even believe that.
I know the universe works in such wonderful ways.
And you put it back in the deck.
I did. Right? I did. Yeah. And good. I'm going to thwap here as I'm shuffling. So you just want to know, is it a treasure that you're not seeing, or do you just want confirmation?
I'm open to whatever you say.
Oh, this is about you, not me. You always do that. You're always like, well, whatever you want. No, it's not about me. What you decide. It's about you.
What was the question?
Do you want confirmation, or do you want something that you're not seeing or
not seeing? Not seeing that not seeing, because that's what they say. They say, look, you see the world through these rose-colored glasses, Pollyanna Patty. And so I always get, like, my team is like, okay, why don't you see that? But it's usually not a treasure. It's like something else that I'm not seeing. So I'm just curious about this, what I'm not seeing.
All right. What are you not seeing? Okay. So we have the reversed Knight of Swords. And upright, the Knight of Swords is a very action-oriented character, someone who takes charge and moves forward. It's a very thinking, like, I have this thought, I have this idea, and I'm going to run with it and do it. Reversed, it could mean that there is a slowing down of this process. So I'm getting that you have the ability to take somebody that's like full charge forward, and I can actually see this, I don't know that this is really like something that is new to you, but maybe you're just not using that often. I don't know. But you have the ability to take somebody who's kind of like full force ahead, like moving, and just kind of slow them down to look at maybe the bigger picture, to break things down, to maybe make things not so overwhelming. So I'll let you tell me what that means to
I
you.
totally know what this is about.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
it might as well have been the tower. I'll tell you what this is about because I got an email about it yesterday. So I love working with other people. I just love it. I love helping people take their message out. I mean, it's just part of who I am. But the question is, what happens when it comes to me? You know, what is it that, whether it's Jessica or Linda, anybody, they're like, oh, Pat, when are you going to put your website up? Oh, Pat, when are you going to put your book 1-page proposal together? So this is like, right, that. So when I think about this, I know that everything in this card I'm really good at for other people, not so good at it for myself. And the message I'm getting, like I would imagine if there was another card, it would kind of say something like time's up, because that's what I hear. But this is my sense of what this means, right? The other part of this that's also important is something you said. This doesn't mean that I don't do things. But what if I'm doing things and I'm forgetting to take the time for myself? How does this play out this year?
In terms of,
Yeah, sometimes you could do, but you don't slow down.
oh
No,
no.
you don't exhale, right? And a lot of people are doing that right now. But this is the card you pulled for me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I also think too that people tend to be busy, but not always productive and not always moving in the direction that they really want to go in. So slowing down is very important. And I like that it was a message for you to do this yourself, but it also highlighted what you're good at, because just my experience in doing the show with you, I give you like a 3-page dissertation. Again, I know me, I'm a word girl, a 3-page dissertation on what we're going to talk about. And you come up with like this one liner, like, oh, that's the treasure chest of tarot. And I'm like, yes, you just took, my 3 paragraphs of rambling thought and slowed it down and condensed it into, oh, this is what we're talking about. So that is a strong point. That's a gift, but this was also a message to you. So that was really nice, I think.
And I want to thank the tarot deck again for breaking the pattern of, and you get the award for this, breaking the pattern of shuffling the deck and not pulling the tower. Thank you for breaking that pattern. That is a 16-year pattern on the show. Oh, let me pull a card. Oh, the tower. Oh, let me pull a card. Oh, the tower. Oh, let me pull it. Yeah. Thank you for. But what you just talked about is so perfect for me.
Good.
It really is. I mean,
it is always perfect. The
perfect.
cards never lie. Sometimes we don't always understand them or don't see how they apply right away. Sometimes when I'm working with people, it takes a little bit to uncover and figure out exactly what it is, but they don't lie.
No, I just went through this with Linda this morning. And there's one part of this I would imagine is that if I'm in the reverse of this, maybe I'm not as decisive as I need to be. Maybe I'm really pulling my full Sagittarian impulsive decision nature forward. Maybe those are the things. I was just talking to Linda this morning and she said, just decide, right? So just decide. It's like, no, you decide. Didn't I do it to you on the show right here? Didn't I be
Yeah.
like, no, you decide. No, you decide, right?
Are you sure you're not a Libra? Because that's my affliction. Oh, I don't want to make a decision. Too many choices.
I'm really good with decisions. I think I've said this before. There are 2 things that folks here they cringe. Number one is when I walk in and I say, oh, I got to talk to everybody. I've got a great idea. So that it's like, what? Oh, here she's got another great idea. That. But I'm really okay making decisions. But right now I'm in this little hesitation mode. about things, right? I'm in this little hesitation mode. But I have to tell you, sometimes it's worked out. Let me give you a specific. I've been procrastinating about filing the PPP forgiveness application. And I couldn't tell people why I wasn't doing it. They're like, why aren't you doing it? Blah, 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 blah. Then I find out that there's a new, simpler application coming out mid-December. That what people realize that if you fill out that big, long PPP application that nobody, the forgiveness loan, nobody knows about that, how to do it. But this is a true card for me. I'm going to have to look this up and read it more. I know one thing is we all need to take better care of ourselves. We can't afford to go into burnout right now, I don't think.
Right. And it's probably not speaking to the time of there's a reason why you're hesitating, because you're very intuitive and you know, like I'm resisting, I know it, but there's a reason. This is probably relating to when you are hesitating or maybe going full-fledged forward and you know you're doing it and you know it's not being helpful and you have to stop. So you really do have to be discerning between the two. So this is probably talking about when you know, okay, I'm just like plunging full forward ahead and I need to like slow down and take a step back.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I want to ask you about is, I mean, people are just seeing a glimpse of this today. You know, this is a full body of work that you do with folks. The stories perhaps are bigger. You know, maybe there are things in somebody's life. Maybe there are different ways that we work with the cards or look at the cards. But I will tell you this, over time, I can't think of a single time that I've worked with somebody with, you know, tarot and what they haven't said, what they've said. I can't think of a time when I looked at it and said, oh, you're not right. I mean, especially this one you pulled today. It is so spot on that I guarantee you when Jessica and Linda listen to this, they're going to be, okay, we told you. We told you there's something wrong with you. We told you, we told you. And it's fascinating though to me. I mean, what is your experience, right? I mean, you work with people, you're doing this, you're helping folks come to a better understanding. How does the treasure chest to tarot, how does that help us have a better understanding of where we are, but what to do, so to speak? Not in a predictive nature, but I'm talking more now that I know this, there's an action for me here. It's not
Yes.
just to sit and stare at you and say, oh, thank you. There's an action, right?
There is. And I really like this work to be action oriented because if we're going to receive guidance from the universe, what a shame if we actually don't value that guidance and do something with it. And I do believe that people tend to get hung up on, oh, I've received this information, but I'm not going to do anything with it. And then you never really change your circumstances or create the kind of life that you want to create. So associating an action is super important to me. And it's interesting that you brought up that you've never done a reading where you're like, oh, that's not right, that doesn't sound like me. Well, I do get that every so often. I get someone that's like, that's not me, that's not right. And we're often resistant to hearing, and I will hear back maybe 6 months later, oh, you were so right. That's what I needed to do. But we have such resistance to doing, and I'm always telling my clients that the reading and the information is not the hard part, it's the implementation. And it's the same when we read a good book, a great motivational, inspiring self-help book, and it sounds great and it gives us like an action, and do you do it? It's like, no, I just went to the next chapter.
You know, it's fascinating too, because, this is really a time where I think that people will look at their lives and will see what they've brought forth in their treasure chests and what's left to bring forth. I believe, like you, I believe that each of us has this treasure chest. I believe that somehow we just don't remember. And
Yes.
so isn't that part of what you do, is helping people remember this. We do have a treasure chest. It's not just for a handful of people, right?
Well, no, and it's not only it's like remembering, but it's also coming home to yourself, because at soul level, we are very different than who we think we are based on our experiences or what we happen to be good at. So it's really finding that treasure of who you truly are. And while this benefits everybody, I do find that the people that are most vested in this are, kind of like the midlife crisisers, if that's a word.
Yeah.
The people who have, hit a mark in their life and they're like, wow, life is too short to continue doing this. And I feel so unfulfilled. And I really want to do the work. So that's really who is most attracted to knowing themselves at that soul level and finding that treasure within.
And I have to tell you, we're living in a time right now, and this is where we really need to have a treasure chest reminder of all of the above. I mean, this is the point in time where we start to question whether we have value, and it's not an energy that, we've seen before. We wonder if we're making the right decisions with what we do in our businesses, at our homes, with our kids, with how we enter the world in life. And we sometimes forget, that with these great responsibilities we have and these enormous decisions, there's a treasure inside of all of us. I want to thank you for today. And I'd love to know your personal message, what you'd like to leave us with. And again, remind people how they can find out more about you.
Just remember that anything you perceive as broken within could be your greatest strength and asset, so don't write it off. If you'd like to find out more about the assets and what you think is broken within, you can schedule a session with me, cwtu.net/being-doing, or if you just want to know more about me, go to loregoldstein.com.
What do you want to leave us with today?
I already told you. If you see something broken within, it may not be that way. It could be your greatest strength. Embrace it.
I know, but I had to ask you again, sort of the play on, did I make a decision to ask you the question thing? Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes, you did.
Sometimes I'm not always asleep at the switch,
You
right?
crack yourself up, don't you?
Well, not always, but I did right here a little bit, crack myself up a little bit with that, because I took in everything you said about this, and I'm going to do my own research on it. But I just thought I would try that on you a little bit. It works. And we got to keep our sense of humor, don't we?
We do.
We
Absolutely.
do. We've
And the
got to
cards
do
have
it.
a great sense of humor too, by the way.
No kidding. And I'm probably not going to share this one with Linda and Jessica till maybe tomorrow. But thank you so much, Lore Goldstein, everybody. Yep, Coffee with the Universe, a lot going on. And, Lore has opened up a way for all of us to stay connected, be connected, and then demonstrate how we can share that connection. All of that with coffee. All of that with Coffee with the Universe. Yeah, I love it. I probably didn't even do that right, because now I'm so flustered about this card. I'm like thinking to myself, okay, I've already got my to-do list. What am I going to do? Coffee with the Universe with Lore Goldstein. Come home to yourself. All right, everybody, we'll see you next time.